So now I've officially cleared out a path so that I can get the old hot water heater out. This is something you definitely want to do. Clear out a path that's wide enough to get out into the hallway there. Path now. Clean out to the garage. And that's something you want to do early. You don't want to wait until you get this thing apart and then start trying to figure that out. Okay, so here's the pipe cutter we're going to use. Now what I decided to do is leave myself as much playroom as possible. So I'm going to cut right above this joint on the cold water side. And then I'm going to come over here to the hot water side, to the hot water pipe, and I'm going to try to cut it about the same level. Now I suspect that this valve is doing the best job that it can, but something tells me that it's not as good as it was when we purchased the place, because I can still hear the water dripping down inside the tank, which is why I have this green water hose hooked up, and I have the pressure valve, release valve in release mode, so that the water could just overnight flow straight out of the tank. If any excess water comes down here, it will flow through the tank and out of the green hose over to the sump pump. So we're going to cut this. Just tighten that up. Give it a couple of turns. So you can see now I've successfully cut this pipe, and contrary to what I thought, there is no water running out down into the tank. So the sounds that I'm hearing must be coming from the heat pump, from the sub pump area over there, which is good news. That means that the water is contained here at this point, at this valve, as it should be, and nothing has been running into this tank overnight. So now we're going to come over here about the same height and do the same thing on the hot water side.
Which you've already turned off.
No, there's nothing to turn off. The hot water pump itself is turned off, so there isn't any hot water. We shouldn't have any problems with water coming out on this side because this has been turned off for quite some time, since last night. Okay, so I'm running into a problem here. I got solder that I didn't see originally, but I am going to kind of commit it now, so probably gonna have to knock this solder off. I guess I could always go higher. I have to knock some of this solder off with a screwdriver. I actually don't want to do that. So there's a solder bubble here that this cutter won't run over. So I'm gonna go up just a little bit higher than before. And it's okay to go higher because everything beneath the cut is going out with this into the garbage with the rest of it. So what we have now is, if you notice, I've cut the outtake. Now this is the side of the pipe that carries the hot water out throughout the rest of the house. And if you notice, there's water falling back, coming back toward the basement area, which really is not the worst thing in the world, but it's happening because usually when the hot water heater is working and it's on, it's forcing water up, so there isn't the ability for the water to come back this way. But right now, since the hot water heater is turned off, the water that was sitting in the pipe is just running back downstairs from the rest of the house. Means we probably didn't get all the water out, and the way you do that is you want to make sure you turn the faucet off, the furthest faucet away from where you're doing your work in the house, before you shut off the water here, and that would help create a vacuum that pulls all the water out. We didn't do that. It's not that big of a deal. As you can see, it's actually stopping, so I'm going to give that a few more minutes to get as much water out of it as possible. And technically, this hot water heater is officially disconnected from power, it's disconnected from cold intake, and it's disconnected from hot outtake. And we should be able to now disconnect the water hose here from the release valve, and put this thing on a dolly and take it on out of here into the garage to make room for the new one. That's what we're going to do next. And it'll probably soak about 6 inches into the carpet or so, in an area that's probably about 3 or 4 feet wide. It's not a big deal. Usually it's so close to the wall. The moisture itself is usually so close to the wall that it doesn't have any impact on any of the activities that are happening in the family room. Nonetheless, if there's a water leak in this room, I don't want it going into the other room if I can prevent it. So since the hot water heater has been removed, I took the opportunity to run a bead of silicone white color caulk right where the frame and the insulation meets the concrete floor. There's a gap. There's probably 1/8 of an inch. You can hardly see it, but it is there. And that's how the water was getting into the family room on the other side of the wall. So I took this opportunity with the hot water heater removed to run a bead of caulk all the way down to the end of the house. And there's actually a bunch of it at the end. I actually built a small dam there because the gap was a little wider than 1/8 of an inch once you got down in at the very end. So I feel like if we have water, if the future water heater happens to have a problem or happens to need to be drained or whatever, that water now will be forced to stay on this side of the wall, which will run it right down into the sub pump. Also, the heat pump here, if you notice, there's about a 1-inch piece of PVC that comes out of there, hits an elbow, also runs down into the sub pump. Well, occasionally this PVC will dislodge itself here, and the water from the AC comes out, drips onto the floor, builds up a puddle here, and eventually makes its way over to the area that I caulked earlier. So I just wanted to point that out. What we'll do tomorrow is, and here obviously I have a bucket hanging here to catch some of the water that's still leaking out of the outtake from the old hot water heater. As you can see, there's not much water in there, but at least this way, overnight, because we won't be continuing this job until tomorrow, but overnight, should any water find its way back through that pipe, it'll just drip down into the bucket. And this wood here is pretty sturdy, so even if this bucket filled up, I'm pretty confident that it would not snap off and drop onto the floor. So yeah, that's it. Tomorrow we're going to come in, roll that new heat pump hot water heater in here. We're going to attach the cold water and the hot water and the power, fill that bad boy up with some water, and then hit the power on switch and give it about 5 or 10 minutes and check for hot water. So we also forgot to mention, we're running this fan here. I'm gonna run this overnight. This will actually help that caulking dry up, as well as the water that was left over from the previous hot water heater that we removed.